I'm asking that much. Just now go, wind up monkey.
This is a test of the Carnival Personnel Emergency Podcast System. The podcasters in your area, in voluntary cooperation with state, local, and federal authorities, have developed the system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency. If this had been an actual podcast, the rambling you just heard would have been followed by official boos and hisses. This concludes our test of the Carnival Personnel Emergency Podcast System. This is only a test.
No, hold on.
Boo!
Hey, Biff. What's the problem with political jokes? Try it again. Hey, Biff, what's the problem with political jokes?
I don't know. Jacques, what's the problem with political jokes?
They get elected. Sometimes twice as president. Kill me.
Gladly.
You want to hear a joke? You want to hear a politically incorrect joke, Biff?
Lay it on me, Jacques. Yuck.
So President Ben Franklin walks into a bar. See, Ben Franklin wasn't president.
That's a thinker.
Hello, everybody. It's Jacques. Welcome to Carnival Personnel.
Hi, this is Joe. Biff is on assignment.
Hopefully working on our visas to go to Japan with him and never come back. In honor of Biff not being here, I'm using the backdrop that Biff usually uses. The shiny, shimmery, golden great bridge, I like to call it. No, I don't. I've never used that term in my life. It is.
They made a documentary about it called The Bridge. You should check it out.
Did you buy it? I actually did watch many shows on the Golden Gate Bridge. One interesting fun fact I know about the Golden Gate Bridge, there's a team that works year round painting the bridge, and they start at one side of the bridge and go from one side to the other, and the process takes a year, and then they just start all over, because of the Yeah, I mean,
steady employment.
It is steady employment. But it's funny, you get that twinge. It's like, how necessary is this? And then you get 2/3, 3/4 through the year, and you see the part they haven't got to yet. And it's obviously, where it is and the weather and, that it definitely needs the upkeep on it. So,
right. They probably went a couple decades without painting it, and they went, oh.
Yeah. We don't want this thing to be like London Bridge.
Right now, a lot of our bridges in Massachusetts are held together by paint. So that's really...
There's a bridge in Lowell called the Rourke Bridge, Rouke. And it's just scaffolding, and the whole thing shakes. The bridge is about a half a mile long. It goes over the Merrimack River. And it was put up in 1986 as a stopgap because Lowell is divided by the Merrimack River, and there were 3 bridges that literally could not handle the traffic. One of them is right in the middle of where, University of Massachusetts Lowell, which I still call it Lowell University, is. One is right as you get into Lowell, coming, in from Methuen on the, and it's a gorgeous bridge. I mean, it is storybook, pretty, gorgeous bridge, and that bridge about a quarter mile. But the Rourke Bridge was put up in '86 as, hey, we need to get something up right away, but we're going to be building this really nice bridge in the next couple years. I've lived here since 2017. So 2018, 2022, 24, 26, like every election, whether it's city council, state rep, the Rourke Bridge production project has been at every city hall meeting, every town meeting for over 40 years. And finally, about 2 months ago, like several times, the funding has come through. Like Lowell, because of Paul Tsongas in the 80s, had this amazing program that revitalized the city. It literally brought it back from being an eyesore, being, a really, it's gone from being the taint of Massachusetts to the upper. Yeah.
Like a dilapidated mill town to something that's actually, on the move.
Like those mills, these because Lowell is where the whole mill industry started in this country. It was the epicenter. And I don't say that because I love my city. It was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution. There's all these great museums in the town, but these, mile long, blocks long, amazing buildings were dilapidated and falling into the Merrimack in the 60s, the 70s. Eyesores by the 80s. Paul Tsongas got these matching funds, and it was a block by block building. It's still a city. There's always going to be challenges, but those dilapidated buildings, I'm going to say 75, 80% of them are now absolutely gorgeous buildings, businesses, condos, whatever. But anyway, so the Rourke Bridge has been falling down since it was put up. It's like if you walk across it, there's a path where you can walk. The whole thing shakes. You are sure if you're stopped on the bridge and traffic's going the other way, the whole that you're sure it's going to fall, like each and every time.
That's the Market Basket Bridge, correct? It connects the two market baskets.
Some towns, will have one Dunkin' Donuts on one corner and another Dunkin'. In the city of Lowell, we do have a bridge that just connects two market baskets exactly. But finally, and I've seen the design. They've done it. It's going to be a 2-year bridge. But yeah, Joe drives all over the state for his job, and I drive a lot for the comedy, and it is so many times. You can see like mesh underneath the bridges to catch things that are falling off of it, and not just the people that Emo Phillips pushed, but just deep dive there. But yeah, so anyways, I have no idea how we got into it, but here we are.
The bridge behind you.
The bridge behind, right? Thank you, because Biff's not here.
Don't watch the documentary called The Bridge. It's actually about the number of people who use the bridge for their final act. Yes, okay. Well, that's because they went to the Presbyterian Reform, on 6th Ave, not on 8th. They were heathens. They were heathens. Heathens.
Thank you. Anyways, we'll get into fun stuff. It's been a fun week of comedy. Again, I get the 9th hour call from our friend Chris Flayhigh, friend of the show, to come host a show I had no right hosting. A few months ago, as we talked, I was the 9th minute host to come to the gorgeous City of Lynn, to the Lynn Theater, 1,200, 1,400 seat venue, to host what's billed as the largest, Italian comedy show in New England. And it is.
Wow.
At Frank Santarelli, Paul D'Angelo, I forget the Artie Julia Januario. And a guy whose name doesn't end as a vowel hosting it, huge Italian banners behind me, all this stuff. But as I had said to the crowd that night, I was a diversity hire. I would. And I also said, they needed somebody who wasn't Italian to explain the jokes to anybody who might not have gotten them. And for some reason, when you tell a whole group of people like that, you're dumb, it works. It got a huge laugh. But I get the call to come and host the triple headliner Valentine's Day show with a murderer's row of New England female comics, the awesome Amy T., the queen of New England comedy, Christine Hurley. And now I guess I've been kind of doing a tour with the lovely and talented and beyond hysterical guest on the podcast, Amy, Rosowski. Emily, sorry. So listen to me, Amy T. And I did. And I'm like, you don't need a host, but it was fun. I'm glad I got asked. I did zero material. I got up there.
My God.
And
introduced. Wasn't that part of their rider? Is that you were allowed to do any material if you were the host?
Yeah. The Valentine's Day show, a crowd of 85% women. I'm going to get up there and tell them how mean my wife is to me.
Right. Brag about how she works 2 jobs and supports the fire. Yeah.
I did get up there. I was wearing my new, uniform, my black pants and black shirt. I got to get a couple more shirts that now fit. But I put on a red tie because of Valentine's Day. And as I'm getting up, I realized we were in an Italian restaurant. So the only joke I made is, why is the waiter talking to us? We'll let the waiter have the mic. I introduced the show, told them to turn off their phones, and just brought them up. No material in between, because Christine Hurley had to get the hell out of Dodge and get over. Like, she had to get from Lawrence, Salvatore's in Lawrence, to Giggles, where she was also headlining that show. So she had to leave
in Saugus.
Which zero traffic, half hour, 35 minutes away. Friday night at 8:30, kind of a crapshoot. So. But it was great. Yeah, but that was Friday, but the Saturday before did a huge fundraiser with Emily. She did 55 minutes that night. And management might get to 4 or 5 shows a year for me. And it's always the bigger shows or, somebody we really like who's headlining. She loves Emily. So she went to that show on Saturday, and it was great, but again, because of her work schedule, I hosted, so she missed my opening set, but caught most of the show, but caught Emily's 55 minutes of hilarity. Packed. It was a fundraiser. Super great night. Did that show with a guy, New England Dad is his handle on the socials. Somebody I've been following for a couple years. He lives in Vermont, and he's one of these guys who a lot of his comedy is these 2-minute clips explaining to himself, but doing 2 different characters, a Boston term like pocketbook. And can you use it in a sentence? So it's somebody from outside New England having what a space saver is. You dug out that spot, and it might be a cone, it might be a lawn chair, it might be a cooler. What's a cooler? That's next week's, but it's like, but isn't that a public parking spot? Yeah, I shoveled it out. It's now my parking spot till April, and he'll have a chalkboard. Really funny guy. Didn't know
his Zach Remy?
Yes, didn't know his real name. And so when I get the flyer, he looks different. His headshot's different than how he looks in his videos. So I go to make a reel to promote the show. So I go up and I look. I'm like, holy fuck, that's great. So I was great. So they say don't meet your heroes. He was awesome. He's going to be coming on the podcast in the next month or so. Family humor. He has 2 small kids. I think like 5 and 7, 4 and 6, which, when he got off the stage, I showed him my screensaver, which is a picture of my sons now 18 and 15 when they were 4 and 6, like the same age. Yeah. I'm like, this is a golden age. Go home and do what you can to hit pause on the time machine, because you are living in the golden age, my friend. And he knows it. So it was great. It was a great night. My friend Dan Cronin produced the show. He's on a text thread with our friends Wayne and Anthony and Justin, the 5 of us did a show the week before. It's been a good run. The 5 of us did a show the week before for a fundraiser for St. Jude's that Justin put together. Justin is ex-military. He was a field nurse, medic in Afghanistan. Really funny guy. He talks a lot. He doesn't talk too much about it. He'll bring it up and he'll get the applause, and then he'll talk about 95% of the time it's just sitting around, And however much you think I masturbated, throw a zero at the end of that number, and your taxpayers pay. Or he'll talk about it's like, yeah, I'm just a regular guy, except I'm a fucking hero and you're not. Very funny. I've done a couple military shows like with hidden battles with him, but he produced a show for St. Jude's, and what was really funny is after the show we took a group photo with the St. Jude's banner. Dan, for Christmas, made an AI photo of the group of us because we have a text chat, the five of us, and he made us all Charlie Brown characters standing around a tree with Snoopy. And it was a cute little photo. So we take this photo. I'm posting, screenshots of everybody that night, and then the group photo. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I beat the Christmas. We are actually in the exact same lineup as we are on the Christmas card, and we didn't plan to do that.
That's crazy.
It was fun. So then Dan, a week later, has to show up in Manchester, packed, absolutely packed, really fun. I got to meet Zach Remy. That was great. Dan crushed, absolutely crushed, and Emily 55 minutes. 5-6 days later, Friday night, I'm hosting the Valentine's Day show, and she only does 25 minutes. She does 25. Amy T does 20. Christine it has to be a tight show, and had to get out of there. And so management and I are sitting, right by the side of the stage, and we're looking at each other halfway through Emily's set, and we're like, she's killing. I'm like, I've never heard this. Like, she's doing like 10 minutes. Didn't hear before at all. And then afterwards, we're like, hey, did you do it? And she really connected. She talked about somebody she follows on social media who's this really great looking bisexual lawyer in the Midwest. And some lady in the back yells out his name. And half the crowd erupts because he's always posting his really hysterical, also thirst trap, photos. I guess he's a really great looking guy. She has 10 minutes. And then she has 10 minutes on this guy called like the donut guy, who's another hunky guy who literally makes donuts. He's a baker. And she, he's making them in his kitchen. She has this thing about always being conflicted between being, a woman, in her late 30s, early 40s, and just totally turned on by this hot guy making these, these donuts in his kitchen. At the other time, she's at the age where she's like, where's OSHA? This isn't safe. He doesn't have a shirt on. Hysterical. Great. And then, management and I are like, you didn't do that Friday, did you? She's like, yeah, no, I didn't. So then coincidence happened. 24 hours later, I host a show on Valentine's Day right down the street at this American Legion Hall. She does another 45, 50 minutes. At least 10 minutes of that set was not at either one of those shows.
Wow.
And I'm like, holy. So we joked about when she was on the podcast, her mistake when she first started, as you might remember, she encouraged up the nerve. A lot of people encouraged her to do this. She worked on her 5 minutes. She went to an open mic and she did 5 minutes, and she did really well. She was really happy. The guy who does it invited her back to come back a month later and do another showcase. She comes back a month later with 5 more minutes because she didn't know you were allowed to tell the same jokes again. And the guy was like, oh, hey, that was all new. She goes, yeah, but because, I really like this other bit, I wanted to hear that again. And she literally didn't know you're allowed to do that, that you can hone material. And so that, I guess, at an early time in her comedy development just is, I'm going to come up with new stuff all the time. So 3 shows in 8 days, and the wealth of material that she threw out was just probably an hour and a half worth of stuff. And there's stuff that she hasn't done in the past that management and I have really liked. You know, she has a concert shirt thing type thing. But it was a great 8 days. The St. Jude show the week before was great. The fundraiser with Dan Hat was great. The Valentine's Day show was great because it was 3 headliners and no one had to put up with my shenanigans. And then, but the Valentine's Day show, what a delicious shit show it was. It's at this American Legion, right down the street from me, 1.9 miles. I can't get paid to do a comedy show any closer to the house unless people come to my living room, which
you're working on.
Yeah, you know, actually, I might do a pool show this summer, but the folks there are so super nice. And Katropis had a show there that I did maybe 6 months ago. And we had a sit-down meeting with them 2 months ago to discuss this show. And they're so excited about this show and want to do 3 more shows this year. We're going to do a summer cookout show, a beginning the week before. Memorial Day, you know, or is it Labor Day in March? Yeah, Memorial Day in May. In May,
yeah.
We're gonna do a show in July. I probably won't be here, but they're gonna do a Christmas in July show, and Mike's gonna down his. I think it's about a $1,500 Santa outfit. You know, he'll take it out of storage. That will be fun. It's so nice, but the configuration of the bar is not good for comedy. The only place you can put the stage, the only place you can do it, divides the room in half. So you have the Hatfields on here, you have the McCoys over there, but the bar splits the bar in 2. So where the stage has to be, you can have like 30-ish people, 40-ish people stage left. The bar is right in front of you, like 10 feet away, and you can't even put a table there because it blocks, you know, the egress. It blocks the door out and to the bar. And then, but to the right of the stage, and it's a big bar, you can get another 30, 40 people, and then you can put 20, 30 people on the other side of the bar. So you're truly 30 yards away, 35 yards away, but thank goodness there's 2 very big pillars support, you know, wall bearing posters, you know, so you can't move the tables any closer because you're at one of those pristine under the balcony at the old garden behind a pole, you know.
Yep.
Seats that we all came to love and know, and that they still have at Fenway. Here was the problem of this show, other than the seating configuration. They brought in a cook, and they were having this show catered. It was a $30 ticket, which isn't bad for a catered thing. And you could get a $30 drink package for the 5 courses, and these wines pair with this. You know, it was somebody puts who knows more about food and alcohol than you and I could ever dream of. Somebody who programmed show for the Food Network, let's say.
Yeah.
So excited. The menu looked amazing. Like my stepdad, who's more food driven, like he will push the horse over to take the carrot in front of him. You know, he likes good food. He likes, so they're like, oh, we got this event, but we're going to try to get back for this. It was going to be plated where people are going to serve it, you know, and they're like, oh, well, the doors will be 5, fruit will be 5 to 7, fruit will start serving at 5, and like every 15, 20 minutes, the next course will come out. Well, what about the people who can't get there to 6? Well, their fruit will be on their table and it will get cold, but, you know, that's how we're going to do it. Great. Last week, somebody decided, yeah, we're not doing that. We don't have the size. We'd have to bring in like 8 more people to serve this. We're going to make it a buffet. And the guy cooking the food said, okay, we need twice as much food because when you have a buffet, there is no decorum. Where are we? Oh, we're in America where people are fat, gluttonous pigs. Getting back to my stepdad, who would push a horse out of the way to take said horse's carrots. And Joe's been into enough shows that I've had, and he's been into enough buffets in his life where, yeah. So doors were 5 to 7. management was coming to this show and bringing a couple friends. And I said to her friends, you got to get your ass there by 5:30. You know, by 6, the food will probably be gone. And 5, and the show's not till 7:30. So food's out at 5, show's at 7:30. Here's some drink specials. You know, here's a drink pairing. The room's really not set up for this anyways. It had all the earmarkings of a shit show. Doors open at 5. Probably 30, 40 people there by 5:10. They did have seating charts, but they didn't give Mike and I the seating charts. So if you bought tickets through them, you had these tables that were all in front, and everybody else kind of fuck yourself out in the back. So because I actually, you know, I always can bring a couple people to a show, but I knew my parents are going. I knew management had, you know, 3 or 4 friends who wanted to go to this show. I knew that about 8 to 10 of my friends were going. So I'm like, you know what? I told Mike, it's like, I'm going to buy a table, but I'm going to pay for the table, but not through Eventbrite, because I'm just going to, you know, give them the money, not Eventbrite the $6 per ticket. You know, also I was having the show shot, so the camera guy and his girlfriend, you know, were going to be to the show, and they were probably going to eat. So I wasn't going to, you know, have them be in the red because I, you know, invited the entire, you know, but it was great, you know. But all the people who I was going to bring were, it's like, you know, on the other side of the bar, behind the pillars, whatever. And I paid for the seat, so I'm like, hey, that kind of shouldn't be how it goes. You know, if these were the comps, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's fine, you know. You know, sit in the back with the unwashed Joe. But Joe couldn't make the show, but I stand by the unwashed. You know. So the feeding trough comes out at 5:30. Management isn't there. One of management's friends on the way, but a couple of her friends were. The line is 40 people long, and they're like, "Oh, you know, we'll wait for the line to go down." And I say to the guys, probably shouldn't do that. Back up 5 minutes. The guy who runs the American Legion Hall got on the mic, welcomed everybody, and politely said, this is a 5-course meal. Take one of everything. We got to feed a lot of people. Be considerate, be kind, rewind. Essentially, that's what he said, you know, but clearly said, you know, hey, the food, people are coming, you know, 7, food's going to be out, take one of everything type thing. Because I don't drink, I didn't buy drink, you know, and I'm not sure which of management's friends drink. You know, she might have a drink if she goes out, maybe, but I didn't buy the drink package. But these people wanted to, her friends, so they went and bought the drink package. They came over to the table, they got their first couple drinks. Line was long, got a couple other drinks. Get in line. By 5:45, the food was gone. Out at 5:30, 5:45, food gone. So management literally gets there at 5:45. When I say, and sometimes I say I'll post pictures. I don't know if I took some pictures. At 5:45, she and her friend, one of her friends, could kind of cobble together what would be half a portion of a side salad that you would get, you know, at a restaurant, and maybe
it was mostly dressing packets.
Yes, and I think they split a crouton. I think they split a crouton, which is great because she's doing a low carb thing.
I picture those old Tom and Jerry cartoons where they have like a big pack of mice that come through a big Thanksgiving dinner, and then you just see a cloud that goes over the food, and then all of a sudden there's just like a spinning bone at the end. That's what happened at this buffet, apparently.
Older crowd, dressed nice, savages, fucking savages. Honestly, fucking savages. And the guy who was seating people, when I said, hey, I kind of have some people going who would like to sit closer, stage right, the table right there that seats 6, goes, oh, well, these people just bought the dinner tickets. They're not staying for the show. Yeah. So For those just listening to the podcast, Joe gives me a what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense kind of look. Yes. And then there was another table towards the back of 4 people who are leaving. So it was a good crowd, half of which, not half, like, it was a 60, 65 person crowd that, what's that, 15% of the crowd is leaving? They just came for the food. And I don't know if the old ladies had Tupperware in their pocketbooks. But yeah, so when management got there, and then our friends who bought the drink tickets, at this point, by the time management got their drinks, unfortunately, had to leave the show about 45 minutes, maybe an hour early, because they're not big drinkers. They're also not big drinkers on empty stomachs. And one of the two was about halfway through their second drink when the third drink came and made the decision, I'm done drinking. What the other one finished their third drink, which was more than fine, but 3 drinks on an empty stomach, who's the person who doesn't usually drink, the room was spinning. and they decided that they were, going to hit the road. Here's what makes it funny and sad at the same time. The people running the show were aghast how many people at 6 didn't get food and were furious. So they did the right thing / the wrong thing and started cupping drinks. Oh, here's 2, 3. And there you got like chips, like, casino chips. 4 drinks, like everybody. So the people who bought the drink package got reimbursed. And on top of, you're getting your 5 drinks, here's a couple drink chips. This is an hour and a half before the show's starting.
Oh, it's really priming the pump there.
Jesus fucking Christ. And so again,
did they hand out like, tomatoes or anything like that could be thrown at comics? Did they,
Well, a lot of people felt really comfortable, really loose. They felt like they were home in their own living room, talking to the television, not a real person on stage. It was one of those shit shows. And look, it was great. It turned out fine, except, there was a group of maybe 5 people. So where the comedians hung out on the far side of the bar where my friends were to start the show, but all moved right up front when those people left. Gianni, guy I do a lot of shows with, he kept having to tell him to politely keep it down because there was 4 old men having a very detailed, very large conversation about their Rogaine routine. That they felt
Rogaine is still a thing.
That they felt the people on stage also needed to hear, Backing up to the Valentine Day show at Salvatore's, triple headliner show, fucking awesome. They killed. Also a bit of a shit show because doors opened at 6:30. Show started at 7. Show had to be pushed back because that's a tight window for people to get your asses in there. Hurley has to be the fuck out of there at 8:30. Also, the function room right next door was having a 50th anniversary party. So the Valentine Day show was a crowd of maybe 120, 130. That 50th anniversary show had a crowd of about 250. Open bar, DJ, like like we've talked about it, like when you do Nick's comedy show now, if the club is going off downstairs while you're on stage, the chandelier is
Upstairs.
Literally shaking. Correct. So it was, it's Christine Hurley. Fucking good luck being louder than her, but Emily's not, doesn't have that bravado, or that the loudness to her. And it was distracting-ish, but it wasn't also. But so, look, it's part of doing comedy shows. But, also, our show, it's like you ran out of food an hour and 45 minutes before the show was supposed to start. Your solution is free drinks an hour and a half before the show starts for the people who have empty stomachs. But also, Joe, like literally, and there was, put a fucking okay, you don't want 8 people serving the food. Have one person turn the buffet around so you have a person like at a cafeteria at the elementary schools I work serving it. So people want to take 3 portions of this,
Yeah.
Honestly, watching the people walk away, having to hold the plate with 2 hands because it's that full, but also under their crux of their arm. Well, they want to make sure they grab their dessert now so they wouldn't have to come back. And by dessert, well, there was 3 types of dessert, 1 of each. Dude,
Yep.
the gluttony was, and people, as we found out, no shame. Absolutely no shame, no decorum, no, oh, here's a bunch of people walking in and I just took 3 desserts. So the show itself was great. Gianni was really good. This guy, Dan Donahue, I work with a lot. He's a plumber, and his whole thing is stories from his job where, a woman insisted she has to have a TV installed in her new bathroom over her new tub. And despite his reasons of why that's the worst idea and he's not going to do it. And then, or taking a phone call. He has a company van with his name and number on it, and a woman decides didn't like the way he was driving, so called to report whoever was driving the company van, and his conversation letting this woman know, thank you for the call. I'm going to fire this guy. I don't care it's Christmas. I don't care it's kids. If you took the time to call, he must really be trying. And so, I'm not giving anything away. That's that's a premise of a just hysterical bit. Really, I mean, again, I would never call him a clean comic, but he doesn't talk about his dick or swear. So, but really funny guy. And then Emily crushed, just absolutely crushed. So it's been a fun few weeks, starting with the St. Jude's thing, and then I have so some fun shows coming up. Finally, great, excited. And the 1st of next month, the 5th, excited get to introduce you to Tony V. That's going to be a big night for Tony V. Really, to get to meet you.
Can't wait
For the first time, for the 20th time, something like that. Got a show with the guy Chris Tabb coming up, who's really great. Done a few shows with him. That guy is on a 12 all the time. He is probably the most high energy right out of the gate, like just, buckle up, motherfucker. We are getting in the car and hitting the gas. He is great. And I got a goddamn show next week that it's supposed to be, really. Yeah, why don't I just stop?
Jacques still here. Don't worry about it.
Oh, so I got a show. I was so excited because Katroba's call. Oh no, I'm at Faux City next week with Matt Mishi, guest of the podcast, Dave Russo, PHO and Methuen, and that's a show. It's going to be a lot of high energy. Those are 3 high energy guys, but it's a older guy bro fest. It's not a 25, 30-year-old tech bro fest, but it's a 55, 60-year-old grew up in Dorchester kind of bro fest at a Vietnamese restaurant in a plaza next to an AMC theater. So anyways, that's cool. Enough about that. I'm talking so much about comedy because Joe and I talked about beforehand. Everything is so bad. Everything is worse than could have possibly be expected. The economy is just horrific. I'm not going to violate, my wife's like HIPAA, rights, but her insurance as of the 1st of last month went up. What is like 280 to 610, whatever that is, like almost. Woo. That's
like 200%.
Yep. But one of her medications went from $25 to $499. So we are now at the point, I have that in my routine where I talk about being in guitar and my son having a 3-day hospital stay, not being able to find out how to pay the bill after. Like I went to the front desk, I went to the help desk, I went to the janitor's closet, and the janitor's like, "Oh, you're American. Richest country in the world, the only country that people go bankrupt for medical debt, the only country where you have to decide buy groceries or Mima's heart medicine. Your son being sick is no profit for us." Actually, he just said, "There's no bill, you go home." But I know what he meant. Like, that's been part of my routine when I talk about it. Well, that's where we are. We're like, well, we don't eat out at restaurants generally anyways. How few do we eat out? Like, she makes her coffee in the morning, so we, maybe the twice a Starbucks a month. That's cutting back to Starbucks twice a month. So that's $80. There. But it's one of those things where it's like, all right, and her doctor was no help. When she talked to her doctor, she's like, well, it's usually $100 or $1,000. So, even at 500, it's still, half of what, now that doctor then had to go see her doctor because my wife punched her in the neck. She did not punch her in the neck. Now here's something. When people talk about George Orwell 1984 book, they talk about the police state, about the surveillance, and we're already there. That's a story for another day. Valentine has already. We are in the police state. Everything is camera. This podcast, my phone. Well, everybody knows it. If Joe and I are having a conversation at my house, and I mention, "Oh yeah, we're thinking about getting a new washing machine," as soon as we get George Washington out of the old Washington machine. That's just for you. It's like as soon as I go to Facebook or Instagram, the first ad that comes up is, "Hey, looking for a new washing machine?" And there's a picture of George Washington next to it because it's President's Day.
Right.
And but literally, we know that is how the world works. But some of the stuff in the book that gets overshadowed is in the book there is a government bureau, a government entity called the Department of Deliciousness, which basically regulates food. And in the book, the government in February had restricted the chocolate ration that was like 10 ounces a month down to 2 ounces a month per person. And 4 months later, they made a huge announcement that because everything's going so well, the benevolence of the overlords are raising everybody's chocolate ration to 5 ounces a month. And isn't that amazing?
And everybody cheered. Yes.
Everybody cheered. And nobody thought, well, because for the last 3-4 months, they were getting by with 2 ounces. So now the benevolent overlords are more than doubling what we get. And nobody was like, oh, weren't we getting 10 ounces just 4 months ago? And then that person is never seen again. But seriously, that is in the book. So now, one of the meds, that a lot of people are losing, I'm going to say without exaggeration, every 5th, every 6th post on my scrolling, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, is an ad for that medicine. And they're all different. It's all, oh, you need this. Oh, here's this. Oh, you don't need this. You can get it this way. Like all these, I don't know if Trump RX is one of those companies that is advertising it. Oh, you don't need it for that. You don't have insurance. Pff, we can get it to you for $300. Like, so you're seeing it $175, $225. It's a knockoff brand. It's not exact. It's the Oreo. It's a Hydrox to the Oreos of the medicine, but it's fine. It's fine. I mean, no, there's not an FDA stamp on it per se, but really. Right. How much longer is the FDA going to be around anyways? I mean, the EPA doesn't exist anymore. We just did away with all regulations over the last, we are going to go back to Blinky the fish any day now. So So literally, so without, that, it's like, so yeah, so I didn't, I talking to Joe before, it's like, yeah, this, really, really sucks, and now, one of the meds that my wife and I were both on, I made the executive decision. Well, my insurance is still okay. I'm still getting it. You can have it, So,
Mhm.
so that's just how it's going to be, and it is what it is, and I shouldn't say it is what it is because I don't know why we accept it. I don't know. I don't know why we're not rioting in the streets. Like groceries have gone so high. They came out, was it 2 months ago, and said they ran thousands of simulations, and you shouldn't be paying more than $3 for dinner. You should have a piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, something else, and literally question mark. They got all the way back to, I think it was season 3 of South Park with the underwear gnomes.
Yes.
Underwear plus something else equals a huge stack of money. And on the graph that the government put out, it was a little caviar school tray. And it had one tiny piece of chicken that didn't fill up the space for the chicken. It had one piece of broccoli. It had, I forget, and then a question mark, and then something else. You ran thousands of simulations and you came up with. And they also told you, they went on Fox News and said, and that was a talking point, like all day, every day, like 10 times a day. You've seen those mashups where they said you shouldn't be buying presents for anybody over 18 anyways. They're an adult, they're an adult, and grandma doesn't need an extra scarf. If grandma's spending Christmas with you, maybe you can make her something, but you shouldn't be shipping anything. If somebody doesn't live near you, you shouldn't be spending money on gifts. Just call them or send a card. Like that, they didn't tell you, oh, the economy's bad. And it's like, they did say people are spending more. The economy is great because last year the average American spent $100 on Christmas. This year they're spending $120. What they didn't tell you is last year for $100 they bought 5 presents. This year for $120 they got 2. Same thing. It's like, people said same thing with Thanksgiving. It's like, hey, look, if you're hungry, just find out where Jacques doing a comedy show that's going to have a buffet. Get there, before doors open, and make up for lost time when you get inside. But I don't know how much, how much people are going to have to be hungry before they riot. And again, it was in the 2025 project. Part of the 2025 project called for, if you cut the SNAP benefits, people will be really hungry. If you give them half the benefits back, you will save X billions of dollars, and people will be happy to get the table scraps you give them. They read 1984 backwards and forwards and studied it and used it as a tutorial, used it as a manual, not as a cautionary tale. So between that, and then Joe and I were talking, I'm not going to talk about the Epstein files except to say what came out in the last batch was beyond anything in any horror film I've ever seen, ever heard. If my wife, who likes horror movies, saw that horror movie, I would go out of my way to find out who wrote that movie and make sure they're in Guantanamo Bay, because that person shouldn't be allowed to be in a free society if you have those thoughts. We all have our dark thoughts, Joe and I more than others, but our dark thoughts is more murder suicide, with each other. But
Well, you should be happy that the government has now, or the DOJ has basically said that there will be no more Epstein file releases. So you won't have to be subjected to the horrors of what you last read in the last Epstein files, because those are indeed the last of the Epstein files.
And I haven't brought it up, and you could bring it up. What's the real reason we're going to stop talking about the Epstein files, Joe? What's the real reason? Pam Bondi yelled it at a Senate hearing loud and clear. The Dow's over 500, or the Dow's over 50,000. Why are we
$50,000?
Why are we talking about child rape when the people who raped the child's hedge funds are doing so well? Why are, like, that was the defense. And I had completely forgotten that she was the Attorney General of Florida who gave Epstein that sweetheart deal. I think it was back in 2005. Most of what is coming out had already come out then. A lot of it had already come out then. And he got like a 6-month sentence at a country club prison, which Monday through Saturday, he was allowed to leave for 12 hours to go to his office in downtown Miami. Unsupervised. Like it was like he could, I don't know if he Ubered or drove himself, but that was a sweetheart. And the miles of evidence. And the thing is, when they signed that plea deal, they didn't, and I want to say there was over 100 victims who had given testimonial, who were given depositions. They didn't run it by the victims. They didn't run it by their lawyers. She unilaterally made this deal with Epstein's lawyer to, plead guilty to a couple of these charges, 6-month sentence, country club prison. That was 2004, 2005. So here it is 20 years later, and she's sitting in Congress screaming with the wall of victims behind her that she didn't even turn around and acknowledge. I mean, if we survive this, and if is a very big question, that will be one of the historical photos that my grandchildren, my son's grandchildren, will ask them in 80 years from now. It's like, oh, where were you when this happened? Oh, wait, you were alive when this happened. Dozens of victims in that small chamber standing up, pleading as she is looking Bondi is looking the other way. She never turned around and even acknowledged him and started screaming relentlessly, why are we talking about this? The Dow Jones is over 50,000. That doesn't help anybody. Yes, it does. It helps the people who got the tax breaks. It helps Jeff Bezos. As we found out in 1984, after 4 years of Reaganomics, trickle-down economics do not work. As we found out, you can ask people at an American Legion Valentine's Day buffet to not hoard all the food because they are the first 30 people, and there's another 70 people who've paid for this food who are in line behind you. I don't fucking care. It's whatever it is. So. Anyways, but back to you, Joe. You've had a big Valentine's Day yourself. When I think of love and grand gestures, I think you. I don't know what did you get for Valentine's Day?
We did nothing.
Sure.
My wife and I mutually agreed to not do anything. She was working, and I was cheap. So we decided that. We probably just, let this one slide. We both love each other. Our marriage is doing well. It just, we look at Valentine's Day for what it is. It's a fabricated Hallmark holiday that doesn't mean anything to anybody, except, no, I'm sorry. I'm being cynical, but I would say that, we're kind of all presented out after, Christmas, so we don't really do much on Valentine's Day anymore, at least.
Well, and seriously, you're one of those people whose wedding vows predate children. Unlike mine by 7 years, I think my oldest was best man at my second wedding. But my wife, same thing. She's like, the economy is the way it is. It's like, we're not doing anything for Valentine's Day. Do not get me anything. Also, being a big fan of Admiral Akbar and his favorite line, "It's a trap." I have not fallen for that. One Christmas, one birthday, one anniversary. None. I celebrate all the anniversaries. Like, she even forgets, or she pretends to forget. And I have them on my phone. The anniversary of our first date, our first pregnancy scare, our anniversary. They're all in there. They're all in there. Like you with Michael Bolton's catalog. You celebrate his entire catalog. What's your favorite Michael Bolton song, Joe?
I'd have to say all of them.
Yeah, we nothing too grand. I saw a little children's book at the checkout thing of Taylor Swift that was very cute, and I got her that. Couple little things. It's like the running joke for the 23 years we've been together is I always get us Sephora gift cards because right out of the gate, I was forbade to buy her jewelry, shoes, clothes. I will get her the wrong thing. I will insult her by getting her something too big or too small or too whatever. And then it was funny, like after umpteen years of the gift cards, primarily, other things here and there, but the Sephora gift cards, always a big thing. One day she was mad, like the day after Christmas or whatever, and she's like, and you don't put any thought into it. And yeah, give me gift card, blah, blah, blah. This is the next day or the day after. She's like, hey, I was just mad the other day. Please keep getting me the gift card, And now I always get like, when my sons make her a card, I always get them gift cards to put in their card. And, I always tell them, I'm always honest with the boys. Like, look, the women... the reason women wear perfume and makeup is because they're ugly and smell bad. And so every single time, there will be a Post-it note is because you're ugly, and the other one will say because you smell bad. And that's been a running thing with us, and it's always very funny. And as she always says, really, the gift cards are for you, It's like, which is not true. But that was our Valentine's Day. She went to the show. She looked amazing. And it was a waste. Like we went to the American Legion Hall in Tingsboro, as I said at the show, the Carnegie Hall of Tingsboro, and then we came the 1.9 miles home. She got all gussied up for me and the white trash that gorged themselves. And the drunk people who wanted to gorge themselves were denied the possibility, so got drink tickets instead. No game playing on my thing. Any game playing for you?
No, not really. Just watching some TV, some YouTube. What did I just wrap up watching? Fallout season 2. Finished that.
I might give that a go because the boys and management loved season 1, and the boys have loved season 2. Like they're like, yeah. They liked Last of Us. They really liked The Last of Us, but they're loved Fallout. They really they're happy that they're like people are finally getting it. That the adaptation.
It's a funny show. It's a funny show. So it's got Walton Goggins. Come on, man. What else do you want?
Yeah.
What else do you need?
Okay, let's play this game really quick. Name the bad Walter Goggins series. Go.
You stumped me.
Vice principals. No, he's great in everything. He really is. He is great in everything. But what about you? Have you? I know. We talked about health insurance and medicine being so high, but have you caught Olympic fever? Are you stage 2, stage 3?
No, I have not. I did, watch the the opening game, not the opening ceremony, but like the first day of games with like Lindsey Vohn's crash. I saw that. But no, I haven't been.
And the agony of defeat.
I mean, it was pretty bad. No, I have not been keeping up, but I do like watching ABC News's coverage of the Olympics because they have to dance around the term Olympics. The Winter Games.
How stupid
it's so great.
Well, that started about 20 years ago when the Super Bowl got copyrighted. And other people and advertisers, stocking up for the big game this weekend. You can't say Super Bowl.
Right. Well, but that's because the NFL is like, we don't want like a Super Bowl strip club event. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want our thing branded on something that we're not endorsing. So I get that. It's like if they said like, if we went to the carnival personnel pedophile ring, we don't want that sort of
Do you have express written consent from the NFL and ABC Sports? I think that was season 1 of Family Guy.
Right.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. I was teaching a couple weeks, like last week, and in one of the special need rooms, and I took 2 of the kids to the they do inclusion, which will probably be done away with. No, they try to incorporate the kids into certain classes. You know, they're not ready for all day classes, or they can't handle all day classes. So we'll be in the special needs room, but we'll go to the music room with another class, you know, a traditional class or something like that. And we went to, and the music teacher was showing figure skating from the first couple of days of figure skating and showing how the music correlates with it. And it was a whole, in theory, this is what music means. It's, oh, we like this song, but you can see how they match things up. It was really fun. But I saw an Olympian do a backflip, an American Olympian to do a backflip. I have a couple of figure skating friends in our world. I've had figure skating friends in my world off and on throughout my life, you know, because of hockey and the proximity and stuff like that. High level figure skaters, and management has 2 friends who follow figure skating around the world like she does Duran Duran. And when I saw the backflip, I whip out my phone and I start Googling, because I want to say it was in 1974 or 76. There was a French figure skater who would do a backflip, and it was deemed too dangerous for anybody else. So they banned the backflip for one person. It's just like Simone Biles has had 2, not 1, 2 moves named for her in the Olympics that were then banned after those Olympics, because no other human being should even try it, let alone be able to do it. That's how much better she is, you know. And yeah, people will develop and people will be able to do it in 4 years or 8 years, and they might bring it back. But yes, this is the first Olympics in 40 years where you can now do backflips, you know, in your routine. They brought it back in 2024. But this is the first Olympic year, so it's been an international competition for 2 years. But that's how I was like, wait a minute, you can't do that. He's not carnival personnel. He can't go in there. So I watched that, and I haven't watched a lot of Olympics, except I've had some reels forward to me. I do love that as much as the marketing and all the things and the ugliness of the Olympics, there is still internationally this Olympic spirit that is real. And I keep getting these amazing stories sent to me about this one doctor in Mexico, this woman doctor, and she was wanted to be a cross-country skier, and did all this work to be a cross-country skier and qualified like Eddie the Eagle, like, you know, the last person to qualify, and she competed enough international things and finished in the top 100 to do it, and she had to sell everything she owns to do this. And before the last Olympics, she went where the Olympics were. She went to a neighboring country because a lot of Olympians were meeting up there the 2 weeks before the Olympics to get some real great last minute training in. On her way to a training session, was in a major car accident. The person driving the van died on impact. She wound up in a hospital and had to relearn to walk. A similar story where a Brazilian woman, also very similar story, had all these absolute, beyond what we could fathom, path to make it to the Olympics. And the reel that I saw started, this Brazilian woman finished 101st out of the 109 or 110 people. And she waited at the finish line for everybody to finish after her to hug them and congratulate them, because all of them knew each other and knew of what this went into. Like the true love for your fellow athletes, for your fellow, you know, here we are, women who live near the equator shouldn't be doing this sport, found a way to get into this sport, found a way to overcome absolute unthinkable tragedy to make it. And those are the stories, I forget, there's a figure skater, Olympic figure skater, my wife was, telling me about, who had to retire because of, just the stress of it, and skating wasn't fun, and just couldn't do it anymore. Took 8 years off and was like, I missed this, and came back to it because they missed it, and those are the stories that it's like, there's no money in it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Her window for money has passed, but those are the stories that are still inspiring, that the people who, how did this person even find out about this sport? How did they even train for this sport? How did they afford to get to the sport? How did they relearn to walk again after breaking every bone in their body, let alone get back here? And so those are the things, the recap shows that I'll like, oh, you know what? I want to know more about this person. I want to know more about this story. I've been kept well aware of what Team USA and especially Team Canada is doing, because for the first time, I think in 12 years, NHL players are allowed to. And Team Canada, dude, it's a fucking, I mean, if you know nothing about hockey, you know the name Sid the Kid, Sid Crosby. Yeah, he's the fucking third line center on Team Canada. He is 12th on the depth chart. Yeah, he's a little long in the tooth for a hockey player. He's, past 35. He's like 35 years old. The same way Tom Brady at 40 had no right playing in the NFL. Yeah, Sid the Kid at 35 is still one of the three best centers in Canada. And the guy, the first line center, his name is McJesus. Like, that's his nickname. Huh. That was his nickname before he broke in the NHL as the first overall draft pick, like 8 years ago. So I get the updates from the FNH text group that the slaughtered lamb today was Team France, who lost 10-1 or something. Oh man, but that's it. That's it for me. Unless you got, what, you didn't get to talk much. I apologize. Another rant where you just sat here and heard me tell you what I told you on the phone before we got on. Why don't you bring us up to speed on parenting? Because that's really that's your moment to shine. That's all the spotlights. That's why people would drive to gorge themselves in a buffet to see you get up there and talk parenting tips. You're the Emily Rosowski of parenting tips, as far as I'm concerned. So for the next 55 minutes, the floor is yours, Joe.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any parenting tips. You son of a bitch! You set me up for failure.
What do you mean
and,
the
you
salad's
succeeded.
gone? I just got here.
Sorry, no parenting tips. Just like there was no food for those people who arrived at 5:46 that night. Too bad. Unfortunately, all the other podcasts came earlier and got my parenting tips before I started this podcast. So I'm all out of parenting tips. That's enough of that joke. Well, I'm going to end the podcast because I don't have any parenting tips. And I think we're over an hour. So I think that's plenty of yapping from us. So thanks for listening. We'll catch up with you in March at some point. And, maybe we'll have a sideshow with a comic in the next week or so. But until then, try to, think of the other person the next time you're at a buffet line. Don't be such a fat fuck. Don't be, I don't know. Just try to, do your part in controlling the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody. Don't forget,
Everyone's waiting. Everyone came to see how it's ending, to see if you've changed. They heard you were lost, but now you've come home. Where have you been, kid? Where did you go? So many questions, so much to say, so much has happened while you were away. I can't find the words, and they get you